Hello and welcome to our on-demand webinar for humidification systems and water treatment for controlled environment agriculture. This presentation will go over some of the features that DriSteem has to offer and talk a little bit about this vertical market that we help service in the industry. Why humidify indoor agriculture grow rooms? Humidification systems are part of the gear needed to successfully grow plant indoors. The holistic approach includes other HVAC and mechanical systems such as dehumidification and different temperature control devices. So when we talk about humidification and why that's important, I will dive a little bit deeper in the next two slides regarding what low humidity and what high humidity do to plants. There's different stages to these plants and different relative humidities that need to be maintained for the best quality and quickest production of that plant. So on the screen, I talk a little bit about this. We're going to go a little bit more in depth a couple slides down. So issues caused by lower fluctuating humidity. As these plants grow and as the vapor pressure deficit draws water up through the root system, that water is carrying nutrients through the plant and pulling out nutrients that are needed. So having low relative humidity is going to have that plant draw those nutrients a lot quicker. But at a certain point, drawing that nutrient and that water source will have adverse effects. So that's a place where we want to control and have a good relative humidity. So as that plant is pulling up that water, the result of that is the pore of that plant is releasing that gas vapor along with evaporation. If there is low humidity, the result of that is the plant will wilt and die, even with its protective mechanisms, due to the lack of water and that stress it imposes. So the opposite is true. Having too high of a relative humidity is also troublesome. With high humidity, the plant can be subjected to fungi and bacteria, as well as powdery mildew. So number one, that's a quality issue and can adversely affect that plant growth. In some instances, that might dictate that the plant, that vegetable is then disposed of as it has gone poorly. So we don't offer currently dehumidification systems at DriSteem directly. However, some things that we do offer that play a role in managing high relative humidity is one of the products in particular has fans to assist in evaporation, which provide better air movement. And having good proper humidity control can help maintain healthy levels of humidity. With that, as we talk about DriSteem and controllability and quality of our product, that's an area where we can have great control within these applications to minimize how much that dehumidifier needs to be used. We don't want to overshoot that humidity and cause that dehumidifier to run more than it's necessary, as the operating expense of that can be quite large. So some more, deeper dive into different humidity level requirements for the different rooms. Each plant, each stage in growth, and each cultivator themselves have a slightly different requirement based on what they feel is best for their crop and their plant. But however, there's some general ranges here listed on the screen that talk about typical temperatures and how those might vary, as well as the relative humidity. So when we're looking at these different applications, that indoor growing facility isn't treated the same throughout that entire facility. There's different ranges that you want to maintain based on the type of room it is. So anywhere from the mother room and maintaining a consistent, stable temperature So we can get good clones and cutlings off of that to then transfer to the clone room. And you'll see that in the clone room typically has much higher elevated humidity requirements to help that root system really establish in that soil. And as we go through the different stages, we're going to tend to drop that humidity. And these facilities tend to do that in a gradual method. You don't want to provide a shock to that plant by, instantly turning off something. And again, back to controllability. As these plants talk about the vapor pressure deficit and how they transpire, that's, again, something that we don't want to abruptly stop that process or, cause a shock to that system. Going a little bit into the products that DriSteem has to offer regarding humidification and what we've employed into these different applications within indoor agriculture. The first one on the list is high pressure atomization, and this technology uses a pump and a set of nozzles to then cause a mist that readily evaporates in the air using excess heat in the air. That excess heat, typically from grow room facilities, can be anywhere from dehumidification equipment and their heat offset. The lighting system, even with LED lights, have a heat gain portion, obviously a lot lower heat into the environment than traditional lighting sources, but that heat can be utilized. And this technology also cools at the same time that it humidifies. It's one of the adiabatic technologies, and this can be advantageous for facilities that do have heat gain. As we work through an example at the end of this presentation, you'll see more number specifics around how can we drop the temperature. But moving a little bit more into the system itself, this is something that does require reverse osmosis water or better, as we don't want to clog the nozzles. And that's something that for this industry is typically readily available as we talk about water treatment a little bit. The real advantage to DriSteam's ADIATEC high pressure atomization system is we use a water lubricated pump. When we look at hygiene, we don't want to have that extra potential of having oil potentially contaminate the water side. Obviously, that could be a quality issue for the plants. The other thing that we get while using this water lubricated pump is we have 8,000 hours between maintenance checks. Typical oil lubricated pumps are every 500 hours. Check the oil level, add oil as necessary. And then the other piece that we do is we flush the system when there's no demand. This is obviously critical, again, to quality of plant. We don't want to introduce anything or propagate any further hygienic concerns. So we will, every 72 hours as the default, flush that system, remove that water. Again, in the last real piece, high-level piece I want to talk about with high pressure atomization is there's multiple size capacities. So this one pump station could feed several different rooms that are trying to maintain several different temperature and RH set points. So that can be advantageous from a capital cost perspective. One of the newer pieces to DriSteam and really beneficial for commercial indoor agriculture is this fan assist offering. This fan assist offering helps humidification in many applications, but it promotes better air movement. Typically with FA3 and FA4, we're pulling the hottest air from that facility down through this fan and then providing the mist at that place. There's capacities listed on the screen regarding what our offerings can be, and there's 3 models. And where that capacity differs is based on the ceiling height to the lowest item in the room and different size pound per hour nozzles. Really an advantage of the system is quick install regarding quick connect hosing and quick connect fittings. And lastly, really what a cultivator like yourself or your customer may benefit from is it's helping mitigate and minimize microclimates. When that plant transpires, there's a localized area of higher humidity than the rest of the room. So if we can promote better air movement and better mixing for closer to homogeneous mixture of air, we will have better control on our humidity as it relates to the entire room. Moving on to the next technology that DriSteem has to offer. Looking at our gas to steam humidifier LX series, this is the highest efficiency gas humidifier on the market. It also is low NOx to help meet those environmental and regulatory needs throughout the environment. Another great piece to this is it has that turn down ratio that's quite large for the industry, down to 20% or less, to give you that accurate control that we're talking about to help minimize overshooting of different humidity conditions. We do have universal water sensing, which helps simplify the end user or the contractor or a representative what type of water is coming into this. So we have the options, and it senses the difference between potable, softened, and reverse osmosis or deionized water. That is something that we provide standard that really can help the end user of this product to be flexible with what water type they provide based on their goals. The second to last bullet point on this slide talks about the water management. A lot of these facilities, like yourselves, like your customers, use a lot of water. We're talking about a process outside of the nutrients used in these plant growths and the seeds, that water is one of the main ingredients to growing these plants, and really critical both from a liquid perspective and a vapor perspective. So having this great drain cycle management and water conservation in this product can really help manage and reduce the amount of wastewater based on the water quality coming in. And then space-saving design. This LX series can fit through standard doorways as one of the advantages. So if we're working in tight spaces, it can help that ease of installation flexibility. DriSteem steam humidifier XT series, an electrode style humidifier that we use, tends to be a good price to market entry point. This is something that uses current technology through the water to vaporize and to create steam humidification. So with this technology, this one is one that is definitely easier on the maintenance perspective regarding if this unit does need replacement of the tank and electrodes. It's a simple change out from in and out compared to other technologies that may require more maintenance intensive activities. So this is something that could be very beneficial to a facility that just wants to take out that consumable tank and put in a new one to help save on that labor front. And then it's auto-tuned to have that drain fill cycle. We do have and released new features to this product regarding mini drain. So we're not constantly draining that full tank down and then trying to get it back up to capacity. So that mini drain function can help keep that humidity closer to your needs, as well as a lower conductivity options for most models. This is something that we've recently added to our product line to help different states and different specific regions with their lower conductivity water. This technology can then be used in those applications. So with that, the last technology outside of humidification is the water treatment systems that DriSteem has. DriSteem has HydroTrue branded water treatment systems. And the reason we're going to talk a little bit about this is not only can that water treatment system be used for your humidifier, it can also be used as nutrient makeup water, so to speak, for the facility. So this is something that facilities typically have if they want to maintain tight control on what their incoming water is and tend to help manage that controllability. Whether that facility has one location or has multiple locations spread throughout the country or the world, Water quality differs based on a lot of different things, your source water, how that's treated, etc. So what a lot of people would like to do is get to a commonality point and get to a baseline, and add back in nutrients that they find sufficient for their type of growing application. So with that, getting that to an RO per meat level really strips down, and we'll talk about the percentage of removal, but it allows you to then introduce things like calcium, magnesium, and phosphates and nitrogens back in at the concentrations you desire based on that specific plant's nutrient need. So DriSteam's product offering around water treatment, there's anything from basic softening with a softener system, if you're going to feed your humidifier with softened water, all the way through reverse osmosis. So reverse osmosis, the membranes we chose to use remove 98% of total dissolved solids. So that's everything, including things like pesticides and herbicides and viruses and bacteria, all things that can contribute to the end quality of your product. And one of the other things, just like our humidifiers, the building communication aspect is something that's a little bit of a differentiator for most standard off-the-shelf water treatment systems on the market. This is something that we can communicate alarms and different signals in BACnet, Modbus, or lawn talk. And what you typically see is just a general alarm contact in the industry. So looking a little bit more at what the offering is. So this can be a standalone, or like I mentioned, match with a humidification system. And that complete system can be anywhere from a dechlorinator to a duplex water softener as pre-treatment to the RO system, and then the RO itself. The one note I want to make about softening systems are they tend to not just be used as standalone in this industry. This is something that we're essentially taking out calcium and magnesium, something that's vital to the plant growth, and adding in additional sodium, and the potential risk of an improperly operating system would also give additional chloride, which could be detrimental to plant growth. So with this, specifically DriSteam's offering and talking a little bit about what we have to offer the market, I talked a little bit about control. The other huge piece is removing those membranes via the sliding rack, or taking that off completely and being able to work on that from a workbench perspective. Wet 40-inch membranes can be quite heavy, and this can help prevent strain of reaching over the top of an RO system to replace those membranes. So some options that we offer: skid mounting, that can be anywhere from the pre-treatment to the RO, etc. Really have a conversation with us and we can help you through that. UV treatment is something that if bacteria and viruses are something that are a concern coming from your water source, this is something that we can treat with. It's totally enclosed within this inline UV system, so we're not exposing these plants to additional UV sources, etc. And then custom capabilities throughout. The one note I want to make at the bottom of this chart is we tend to size our systems based on 50-degree Fahrenheit water. This is something that we found beneficial for many industries, but what can be beneficial for the cultivator is lower temperatures lead to better quality water coming out of the permeate. So you're really starting with a better base. The second thing is you're removing that risk of heating it to a zone where bacteria and viruses thrive at 77F and above. Obviously not all the way to boiling. So with that, when we look at these systems and they're sized for 50F, knowing the water coming out of your ground, you'll meet that capacity that's listed versus having that surprise of potentially not having enough. So moving into an application example, the flowering room. So this example, I picked Phoenix, Arizona, and obviously it's a little bit of a larger zone when we're talking 2-zone, 10,000 and 15,000 square feet accordingly. With their ventilation requirements of 3.5 air changes per hour. And here are the space conditions and outdoor conditions listed. I should mention the outdoor condition is a winter condition, and I will show the advantage of potentially using an adiabatic solution with summer conditions in a couple more slides. So looking at the HVAC layout, so this system, might have, with this example has no additional space for mechanical ventilation. This could also be true of natural ventilated facilities as well, where we have to look at something that can't go in a duct or an air handler just based on space constraints. So looking at this specific example, it has fans throughout the room to help promote circulation that we talked about existing, and then gas heaters as needed for winter conditions. So looking at product selection, looking at these loads and using our load calc software on our website yielded a 480 pound per hour load based on these conditions. So now that we understand the load, looking at a couple different options, whether that's an isothermal humidifier, gas or electric, and there's some limitations to that. Number one, it might be physical footprint on that where you want to humidify. So if that flowering room doesn't have additional space, that's something that we need to consider. If it does, we just have to look at the limitations on the space distribution units, but it's definitely a solution that can be employed in this application. What might be a potentially better solution, and we look at high pressure pump station. That can be located away from that flowering room, wherever your water treatment system is in that mechanical type space, and control via two different zones. So with that, as we get more zones and using one pump station for multiple zones, we can get that additional benefit of zoning capability. And then this might be the best choice because it can handle larger loads and has a lower energy consumption without even talking about the offset of potential mechanical cooling offset. So looking at the winter conditions from a psychrometric perspective, looking at what would be required for that high pressure atomization that we believe might be the best case in this specific example, is we're going to need that preheat source. So if we're taking that outdoor air and we're preheating, so that could be done via those gas heaters that were shown in the space, but more likely for a cultivation application, if there's that excess heat already existing, that might be the preheat source from the lights, from the dehumidifiers, from the other piece of equipment, etc. But as we then get that preheat source, we drive that temperature to, let's say, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, relatively low humidity at about 4%. And we're going to follow an enthalpy line straight up into our target zone of temperature, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and 45% RH. So looking at summer conditions, just real briefly, the same conditions as previously mentioned, but these conditions have different outside air temperatures and humidities. So same space conditions apply. So as we look at this, our outdoor condition, we need to first pre-cool this air. This can be done via mechanical cooling, but also we can offset some of that cooling load by having adiabatic cooling technologies, such as high pressure atomization, where we still follow that enthalpy line and drive it up into the desired temperature. So with this specific example, if there's that range and that flexibility, we can offset about 13 degrees Fahrenheit of sensible cooling, which equates to about 39 tons of mechanical cooling. So lastly, I want to wrap up why choose DriSteem humidification systems and water treatment systems. At DriSteem, we are committed to quality, and we've been designing and building world-class humidification for more than 50 years. We're committed to making the best products we possibly can, and through that innovation and that quality aspect is where we introduced water treatment roughly 10 years ago. With water treatment, again, we can benefit from two applications, whether that's humidification or as nutrient supply water. Next, support and reliability. We are known for our great technical support team, and we're here to troubleshoot any issues that may arise. We know that no matter how much we prepare and how much others prepare, there's always something that comes up. We're willing to take phone calls and help you work through that. Also, we offer startup assistance if it's a more complicated system, let's say high pressure atomization. That's something where we could come out, talk a little bit about positioning, even isothermal, where do you put the RH transmitter, etc. And lastly, case studies and research. Support your business case with data. DriSteem is continually adding to our collection of case studies and white papers. We have a gambit of different isothermal applications and adiabatic applications, as well as case studies on the water treatment aspect. If your customer says, hey, I don't want a softener anywhere near to my system, we have a case study that talks about eliminating that for one of our customers. So please go online, check those out. And again, thank you for your time listening to this today. And I hope we can talk more about this in the future.